In this episode of the Motor City Hypnotist podcast, I'm always looking to give people resources and things they can reference or listen to or watch that can kind of help them mental health wise. And I watch a lot of TED Talks regarding mental health. So I'm going to give you a short list, probably 10 or less of TED Talks that I recommend that address mental health issues that you may find valuable as well.
Okay.
And as usual, we're giving away free stuff. Hang in there, folks. We'll be right back.
This sounds like something for the authorities in Detroit.
Well, joke's on you. I'm living to 102 and then dying, like the city of Detroit.
Guys like this antique over here out of Detroit.
Spawned in the hellfires of Motown. Take him to Detroit.
No, not Detroit. No, please. Anything but that. No.
Stationed in Drambuie. It's worse than Detroit.
We did not have, as a unit, the confidence that we felt like we needed to beat Detroit.
Let's go to Detroit.
Now you're talking, brother.
I don't think so. He plays for Detroit now.
Do they have many farms in Detroit?
Detroit. It's in Michigan.
I go to school. I know where Detroit is.
Get ready for the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright, originating from the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. He has hypnotized thousands of people from all over the United States. David R. Wright has been featured on news outlets all across the country and is the clinical director of an outpatient mental health and hypnosis clinic located just south of Detroit, where he helps people daily using the power of hypnosis. Welcome, the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright.
What is going on, my friends? It is David Wright, the Motor City Hypnotist, and we're here with another episode of the Motor City Hypnotist podcast.
Well, hello, David.
Well, hello, Matt Fox. That's the other voice you hear.
Are you still full from Thanksgiving?
Not too bad. I didn't quite overdo it as much as I could have.
Well, okay, that's fair.
I paced myself.
So you had how many meals in the day? Just
two.
One? Two? All right.
Yeah.
The normal one and then
the normal one and a later one.
Later one, okay.
Yeah,
The leftovers.
The leftover, yeah.
The turkey sandwich.
Second dinner.
Second breakfast.
I don't think he knows about second breakfast.
Right.
Shout out to those if you want to put the reference on our Facebook page.
Yep. Can you guess it? No, it's the week after stuffing your face with food. And,
absolutely.
Happy
and we're back to the usual this week. So for another couple weeks, and then we have the holiday again.
So yeah, if you celebrated and you enjoyed it, let us know.
Yep. Yeah. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and hopefully your Christmas as well as can be coming up.
Yeah.
So we're here in the palatial Podcast Your Voice, Southfield Studios.
Yeah.
Hanging out, doing a podcast. Let me tell you folks where you can find me. My website is motorcityhypnotist.com. Check that out, especially if you're interested in shows. Especially, and I want to throw this out early. I know it's December right now, but high schools are already booking for grad nights in 5 months away. And I've already had a couple conflicts. I had a school that I did for the last couple of years call me, but I'm going to be in Florida at the University of Florida the night of their party. So
is this your second time through there?
Fifth time, the University of Florida. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So my buddy Richard and I, typically how it works is we kind of every other year, because he started this, and then my buddy Richard Barker, he's the incredible hypnotist, and he's often on cruises and traveling. He does a lot of international work. So it works out that we kind of do it every other year, but I did it last year, so I'm getting 2 years in a row this year.
Cool.
So back to University of Florida, Gators.
All right.
The big dance marathon in their basketball arena filled with thousands of kids. Yeah. It's a great show.
That's fun.
But the reason I brought that up is because the high school got bumped because that was booked first, and it's unfortunate. But if you want to get entertainment for your grad night or your post prom, now's the time to do it, because dates I'm already filling up.
Right.
I probably already have 10 dates scheduled.
Wow, that's great.
And it's not even the end of the year yet. So yeah, check out. You can look on the website and do a quote. You can get a quote in minutes. It's automated. Put in your information, the date and time, and the venue and the size of your audience, and you will have a quote within minutes. So check that out. You can find me on social media. Facebook and YouTube are both Motor City Hypnotist. and on Snapchat and Instagram, which are both Motor City Hypno. That is HYPNO.
Yes.
And as we've done every episode going back, we're on episode 280 tonight.
Wow.
280. But on every episode going way back to number 1, we've given away a free hypnosis guide. If you want your free guide, it's a PDF, couple pages, not in depth, but it gives you an overview of what hypnosis is, what it's not, clears up some myths and misconceptions. You can grab that for free. Text the word hypnosis to 313-800-8510. And the important thing, wherever you're listening, if you're on Facebook Live, that's awesome. Yeah, I'm glad to have you with us as we record every Monday evening. And you can be a part of the conversation, ask questions, give suggestions, whatever you want to do. But join us on Facebook Live as we record live on Mondays. If you're listening on a platform, wherever that is, whether it's Spotify or iTunes or Stitcher or whatever, make sure that you subscribe, link, connect, whatever you have to do to get the show. And then it'll just pop into your feed automatically. You won't have to look for it. And the big thing is wherever you're listening, leave a review. That is the most helpful thing you can do. And I know I'm guilty of this. I've had a lot of great service in different places, and I always think, oh, I'm going to leave them a review, and it doesn't happen.
Oh, oops.
I mean, it has happened, but I should do it more, is my point. So, yeah, leave a review. That would be greatly appreciated. All right, it is time.
Here we go.
That's how winning is done.
Yes, it is. So this is a fairly short story, but it's a good one because, we always like our stories when they have animals involved with them. Of course we do.
Correct
Because
statement.
we love animals and we love most people.
Well, most.
Most, yeah. So here's the story. A dog was rescued after it was found floating down an Arizona canal on a submerged shopping cart. Matt, I'm just going to show you the picture.
I'm just letting that linger in the air.
Yeah, I'm going to
for
show
a
you
second.
the picture, and then I'm going to read the rest of the story.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I got it. I got my visual.
You got your visual. I'll give you guys a visual if you're watching Facebook Live.
Yep, there's the visual.
There's the visual. He's laying on the shopping cart, which is floating down a canal.
Okay.
Passerbys alerted the Humane Society after they spotted the pup stuck in the middle of a canal in Phoenix. An emergency animal medical technician from the nonprofit was dispatched, and together with the help of the city's fire department, they were able to save the Chihuahua mix.
Okay.
Video shows the team using a ladder and a rake to pull the dog out to safety. The senior pooch, called Dorothea, was assessed in the AHS pet ambulance, where she was found to be dehydrated, hungry, and covered in ticks, but otherwise healthy.
Wow.
The 10-year-old
Go on.
The 10-year-old pup was later examined by a veterinarian at the Zen Animal Foundation, where she was found to only have sustained minor injuries.
Good.
After the news reports of the pup's trauma, Dorothy has since found a new home and is now living with a family in Youngtown, Arizona.
My goodness.
Yeah.
So instead of a
but these stories, and we always talk about this, Matt, with these stories a lot of times, it just gives you enough information to start asking questions.
That's why
I'm like, how did he get on a shopping cart in the water?
So get ready. So instead of a bicycle, it found a shopping cart. And instead of a tornado, it went rafting. Okay, I got it.
Okay. But it looks like the shopping cart is like covered with something like moss or something.
How long has Dorothea been on the shopping cart?
And if you see the picture of Dorothea, she's just laying there.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, whatever.
She's just got one paw on the wall.
Her chin is down. It's laying down. She's just relaxing. So, but anyway, it's a cool story. And again, I really like to say, oh, how did the dog get on this thing? Like, I don't know. It just seems bizarre.
You know what? Dorothea was going down the river.
She's in a van down by the river.
And she's going to herself, I'm popular. Popular.
Look at me. Look at me.
I just saw Wicked last week. So I got that music stuck in my head.
All right. So that is our winner of the week.
Thank you.
That's how winning is done.
Yes, it is.
So, back to it.
I still got questions, but we'll get into today's episode.
And that's a frustration with a lot of these stories. It's like, well, I want questions. I want answers.
Yeah.
I want answers. I demand answers.
We need to visit some of those stories that we've gone over and need to do a deep dive to get some of these answers.
I know.
I really do. or at least bring these folks in.
We've talked about that, and that's something that I have failed on. I failed you, Matt.
You haven't failed anything.
Yes,
we'll get to it.
No! Don't shut me up!
So
You have a brain like a chicken!
So episodes 300 through 5 is going to be all...
Okay, we'll try that if we can.
Like this in the background. What the fuck is it with you?
I'm just spitballing.
No, I know. I get it. I know. And that is something that we will do at some point.
Yeah, we have to.
So we're talking today. I want to give you resources because a lot of times when we talk about mental health, it's hard to break something down in these half-hour episodes that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's so much, and there's so much detail and conversation and things that go into it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I've watched over the years, or have kind of caught my eye, are a lot of these TED Talks. So I'm going to give you a list of TED Talks that you need to listen to. Now, there are no specific order or amount or anything, but these are the ones I've watched that I thought, oh, this could be valuable for our listeners.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one is called "There's No Shame in Taking Care of Your Mental Health." It's from a gentleman called Sangu Dell. So when stress got to be too much for this TED Talk fellow, he said he had to confront his own deep prejudice as a man talking about mental health.
Okay.
In a way, there's this unspoken, and maybe it's spoken, I don't know, but there's this underlying idea, and I don't know where it came from, that men shouldn't be emotional, or men shouldn't worry about their mental health. They're tough and they can make it, and they're
Can I differ on
yeah,
that?
no, yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, you can, because it is different. That's not how it should be.
No.
Unfortunately, that's how that's how many men feel.
Yeah,
And that's
okay.
the problem.
Right.
Yeah. So he talks about how he learned to handle anxiety in a society that is not comfortable with men expressing emotions. And that was his challenge. And he said, being honest about how we feel doesn't make us weak. It makes us human.
Okay.
So take a listen to that one. That especially if you're a man, I think that would resonate with many of you out there.
Okay.
The next TED Talk is called "Why We Choose Suicide." Now, it's pretty heavy, and I know you have to be in the right frame of mind to listen to that, but it's very insightful. So the gentleman's name is Mark Hennick, and he kind of broadens our perceptions on what suicide is and the subject of suicide itself. And he also says that he's trying to make people understand not only the point of someone who is thinking about it, or who has tried it, or has succeeded in that, but how we need to reframe the way we talk about it.
Interesting.
That it's not this black mark. It's not this thing that we shouldn't talk about. So I'll give you a couple of examples. I've had clients over the years of my 32 years of practice that have lost either loved ones, friends, family members to suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And many times they feel like they don't want to talk about it because it's too painful, and they don't want to. It's almost like they're burdening others by even mentioning it. Because if you're with somebody, even if you know them fairly well, that's not usually something that comes up in conversation.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, people feel like we want to keep that a secret. It's kind of a bad thing. We don't want people to know that.
Right.
But the whole point is that we want to talk about it. We want to be able to discuss how we're feeling, especially when it gets to that point when you're thinking of suicide or harming yourself.
Yeah,
for sure. This next one is from a gentleman called Gabor Mate, M-A-T-E. Actually, it's Mate. There's a thing on the E. I forgot what you call it, but whatever. So he talks about the power that addiction has over people. And he discussed the lengths of addictions, and not just drugs. We're talking about addictions in general. One of the things he frames in his TED Talk is the addiction to power as well, which is a little bit different from what you'd usually get. And people become addicted for many different reasons: lack of love, the desire to cope or escape their situations or the things that they're going through.
Okay.
So the issue is that when people start using substances, it's not, you could do it for fun. Like when you're growing up and you just start drinking, it's fun. You don't know it. You're learning it. You're just, especially when you're younger. But as you get older, if you're using alcohol or any other type of substance to avoid feeling depressed, anxious, whatever those symptoms are, that becomes a problem. So Matea is a specialist in terminal illnesses, chemical dependency, and HIV positive patients. So he's very, very well-rounded.
Okay.
He's also a renowned author of books and a columnist known for his knowledge about attention deficit disorder, stress, chronic illness, and parental relations. So definitely a good one to listen to.
Yeah.
Especially if you have somebody you know, or if you may be caught with it or struggling with an addiction.
Okay.
Okay, the next one is called Mental Health for All by Involving All. And this is from Vikram Patel. So this is shocking. Nearly 450 million people are affected by mental illness worldwide. Think about that for a minute. 450 million people.
That's a lot of people.
In wealthy nations, such as United States, most industrialized nations,
Okay.
probably less than half of the people receive treatment or seek treatment.
Half of the 450 million.
Yep.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people who are not getting help, but it's affecting them. In developing countries, it's close to 90% non-treatment rate.
Jeez.
Again, the psychiatrists are in short supply, professionals are in short supply. These are developing countries. They don't, it's not like the United States or Canada or Great Britain or Europe,
Right.
Not that Europe's a country, but
Yep, I get you.
those countries. So he outlines a very promising approach, and he's talking about getting members of the community involved in addiction and mental health interventions, not just addiction, but all mental health things. So really what he's doing, he wants the community to get more involved to help the people who need the help. So it's kind of like peer assistance, if you want to call it that.
So hear me out on this, because the only way that we're going to get the community involved is if the people that are going to help with this, they need to want to.
Absolutely.
And the boomer generation is starting to retire. They're starting to do other things. They're leaving their
their jobs,
or what have you. They're retiring.
They're getting retirement age. Yeah.
Who's going to pick that up? Because my generation is, yours and my generation, we're getting to the point where we're going to start getting ready to retire. We've had our careers, right? So a lot of the folks that are in the industry already of mental health, they're where you and I are. They're looking forward to that retirement part. Who's going to take up who's going to?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will say that in general, and this is anecdotal because I don't have data to back this up. It's just from my own experience.
And I'm just asking questions.
No, it's a great question, because I see a lot of younger, like let's say ages 18 to 30. And I think just from what I gather is that a lot more people that age are talking about mental health. They're more aware of it. There was no mention of mental health my entire time through school, elementary, junior high, high school. It just nothing.
Yeah. We knew it was there, but we didn't talk about it.
I mean, I grew up in a divorced family. I had family members who were probably substance abusers or addicted. But as a kid, you even growing up, you just think, oh, this is just how things go.
Well, you and I come from the same background, divorced family. There are a lot of ebbs and flows and growing up and trying to find your footing. And thankfully, we've both found our footing in that regard. We need the younger generation to start finding their footing and taking steps.
Well, and here's the challenge, because I'm going to refer back to the series that we just completed a couple of weeks ago, the quarter life century crisis.
Correct.
So those people are in it. And if they're in it, it's hard for them to help other people.
Right.
That's probably where we're going to see a shortage of community people to kind of take that on.
I'm a bit concerned with how we are going to see this world change when it comes to mental health, because the younger generation, they're super, focused on mental health, and they're expecting, some of them might be expecting for someone to to step in.
Mhm.
No one wants to step up.
Yeah, well, I mean but that's kind of you see that a lot. Even any job that we've had, they're the people who do the minimum. They just do the
you're not
bare
wrong.
minimum to
You
get
are not
by.
wrong.
They're not going to put themselves out. They're not going to put in 100% effort.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just going to do the minimum
Mhm.
and I'm good.
So I digress. I have to
No,
ask the
no,
question.
it's a great question. And that's something that's fair. It's a fair concern.
Mhm.
The next one is from a comedian. Her name is Ruby Wax. Never heard of her, but
Is it 2 X's?
no, 1X.
Okay.
So she states diseases of the body garner sympathy, except those of the brain. Why is that?
Repeat that again.
She said sympathy. She says diseases of the body garner sympathy, except those of the brain.
Okay.
Why is that? So she does, and again, she's a comedian, so it's a humorous thing, but it addresses the issue in a kind of a real way.
Mhm.
And she was diagnosed with clinical depression a decade ago, and she talks about this in her stand-up routine.
Interesting.
And she's really urging people to put an end to the stigma of mental illness, and by being able to laugh at it and joke about it, at least it brings it into the conversation
Sure.
and awareness of people who are watching.
In any illness and any disease, you have to be able to laugh. Because they say laughter is the best medicine, right?
And it's cliche, but it's right.
It is correct.
Yes.
But you have to be able to laugh at it to understand it,
Mm-hmm.
and then to see ways that you can get better from
Well,
it.
and I will say in an abstract way, if you're able to laugh at it, you reduce its power.
Yeah.
You do.
Yeah. It's like
You
controlling a
reduce its
dream.
hold on
Yeah.
you. Exactly.
It's like controlling a dream. Yeah.
Absolutely. The next one, I like the title on this one. Being Just Crazy Enough from Joshua Walters, TED
Hey, you know
Talk.
what? Your crazy matches my crazy.
So Josh Walters, his bipolar, he's been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And he said he walks the line between mental illness and mental skillness.
Okay.
in this, I would say it's a funny talk, but it's also thought provoking because he brings up a lot of things. And he said, what's the right balance between medicating craziness away and riding the manic edge of creativity and drive? Because think about that. So think about what I'm saying there. In bipolar disorder, there's a depressive and a manic. They cycle between, not necessarily full cycles. They can be more depressed or more manic. Every bipolar is different, but it's usually on a spectrum somewhere. But his point is well taken that you need a little bit of craziness to do something daring in life, or to challenge yourself, or to do something that's unexpected, or maybe that you never thought you could do,
right?
That you just try.
Yeah. So
I like the thing that he says, we want to have a balance between medicating the craziness away and using it for something that's good. Yeah.
Jeff Dunham.
Yeah.
One of our favorite ventriloquists out there. He just dropped a new holiday special on Amazon Prime. And one of his characters, Bubba J, he's got deep thoughts with Bubba J, right?
I used to love Deep Thoughts by Jack Handy. Do you remember that from SNL?
Yeah, I do.
I love those.
I do remember Jack Handy. Just saw it. Anyways, Bubba J has his deep thoughts and he goes, do you think Santa's bipolar?
That's it.
That's it.
That's awesome.
I love that guy.
That's awesome.
I absolutely love Jeff Dunham and what he's done with his characters and how he's just continued to evolve his repertoire, if you will. Go on.
Oh, it's great. So our next TED talker is Eleanor Longden. So I'm just going to read this first couple lines of this snippet. Eleanor Longden was just like every other student heading to college, full of promise and without a care in the world. That was until the voices in her head started talking.
Ooh.
Initially innocuous, these internal narrators became increasingly antagonistic and dictatorial, turning her life into a living nightmare.
Wow.
Diagnosed with schizophrenia, hospitalized and drugged, Longden was discarded by a system that didn't know how to help her.
Go on.
Longden tells the moving tale of her years, long journey back to mental health, and makes the case that it was through learning to listen to her voices that she was able to survive.
Wow.
Yeah. This is a really good one. I really enjoyed this one.
So that was a TED Talk.
Yeah.
Wow.
The Voices in My Head from Eleanor Longden.
Will you put the links to the TED
Yeah,
Talks
absolutely.
in the
In
show
fact,
notes?
all of these links are in. So I'll make sure that,
Sweet.
I'll make sure Jamie gets a hold of those.
Yeah. That one I'm
to post on the show notes.
I'm very interested in listening to.
No, absolutely.
The talk there.
Yeah.
Who's the next one?
The next one, I like the titles that are like the title, The Voices in My Head.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great title for a TED Talk because it's like, oh, that sounds interesting. What was the other great title that we just looked at? Be Just Crazy Enough. That's another great title.
Yep.
This one, the title's not, I don't love the title, but it's a good read.
Or a good watch,
or a good watch,
Okay.
rather. Yes, because
Okay.
you're watching on typically YouTube.
Okay.
Would probably be the
Okay.
place. Toward a New Understanding of Mental Health from Thomas Insel. So again, I'm just going to read this first line because it's kind of powerful. Today, thanks to better early detection, there are 63% fewer deaths from heart disease than there were 30 years ago.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
Again,
very good.
awareness, early detection,
Technology, medicine. Yeah.
Thomas Insel is the director of the National Institutes of Mental Health.
Awareness. Go on.
Yep. And he said, can't we do the same for depression and schizophrenia? The first step is finding it and getting it addressed early in life. So here's the thing, and this is a general thing. Again, there are exceptions to every rule, but most of the time with severe mental illnesses like schizophrenia, like bipolar disorder, typically the onset is early 20s. That's kind of the average works out to the early 20s. Now, it could be a bit earlier, it could be a bit later. I'm not saying it doesn't happen to somebody who's 60 as well. It's just those are outliers. But typically, serious mental illness issues come up in that young 20 range. So his thing is trying to develop a new avenue of research to look at these things when people are kids and teenagers, to try to address it beforehand. And his big thing, and I love this because he wants the term mental disorders to go away. He said, we want to do away with that.
What are we going to?
We want to call it brain disorders, which is exactly what it is.
Okay.
Because again, with the term mental disorder, there's always this stigma attached to it. And people feel like they're less of a human being if they have a mental disorder. Now, if they've just assumed and reframed it or restated it as I have a brain disorder, I don't know. It's a little more palpable, it's a little more acceptable.
But I hear the word challenges thrown around a lot. They have challenges.
Sure. Well, doesn't everyone?
Yeah. But
I mean, that would
to
be
make
my
it
thing.
even broader. They're not saying it's his brain. It's a brain disorder. But
here's the thing I say to clients, and I've said it quite often over the years because they get frustrated and they're like, "Well, I'm a failure. I can't do anything right. I don't." And I said, "Listen, you have to give yourself a break. Your brain is broken.
Right.
Your brain doesn't work the way it's supposed to."
I've heard the terminology, especially in this new role that I'm now working in. It was broken down really easily to me when you're switching companies and what have you.
Yeah.
You got to give yourself some grace, which I thought was a brilliant way to put that. It's going to be challenging and you have to give yourself a break, give yourself some grace to learn.
Absolutely.
So,
and I will say this, when I work with clients, they're so, most of the time, if they're depressed or anxious, typically that's going to affect their job. It's going to affect their relationships, their family. And they always have this underlying feeling of failure. That's typically what happens with clients. And I have to tell them, I'll bring up a great movie reference.
Go for it.
Give me a second.
Got it.
I know it just left my mind as soon as I said it. Good Will Hunting.
Yeah.
The scene near the end.
Okay.
When he just says to him, "It's not your fault."
Yeah. It's not your fault.
It's not your fault.
Stop it, man.
It's not your fault.
Stop it, man.
He's like, "Don't fuck with me." Not you.
Yeah.
And but he's finally getting it.
Yeah.
Because even in that scene, and I know it's dramatized, I know it's a movie, I know they're actors, but these things happen in real life. And even the first couple of times Robin Williams tells what's his face? Will.
Matt Damon.
Yeah, Matt Damon. Matt Damon.
Go on.
Sorry.
Another movie
Team
reference.
America.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Couldn't help it.
Great heavens. What kind of radio show is this?
Matt Damon. Okay, anyway, so when he says to him the first couple of times, he says, it's not your fault. He's like, yeah, I know. But he didn't. He didn't get it. It wasn't in there.
Yeah.
And I love that scene because he just keeps saying the same thing. It's like, no, you need to get this. You need to believe this. And I will say to most of my clients, it's not your fault. It's not your fault your brain doesn't work the way it was intended to. And again, going back, 450 million people in the world suffering from a mental disorder.
And only half of them seek out treatment?
In less than half in non-developed countries. So you can see that a lot of people's brains are broken. And it's not of any fault of yours. It's a physiology. It's biology. It's the way your brain processes things. So just a little teaser, because we're gonna close out this episode. But next episode, we're talking about changing brain function that will help you feel better. Next episode, we're going to talk about the benefits of ketamine. Now, it's a little, we just covered this maybe 6 or 8 months ago, but I'm revisiting this for a specific reason, and we'll talk about it in the next episode. Why? But I'll tell you why this is an effective tool for changing the brain chemistry and changing thinking.
If utilized correctly.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's always the catch with everything.
Yes.
If done correctly.
Got it.
Yep. All righty, folks. Before we leave.
Ooh, here we go.
Somebody needs a home.
Who is it? Who is it?
It's Knight Rider.
Knight Rider.
Knight Rider is a lab mix. He's 75 pounds, so a pretty big dog. He is dog friendly. Cat friendly is unknown. Kids older than 10. His activity level is high. But Knight Rider needs a home.
No, to the camera.
To the camera.
It's
first.
a black lab. It's a lab.
Look
mix.
at that face.
That is a lab mix. Definitely. It's got the nose of the.
Yep.
I'm sorry, the ears of the lab.
The eyes.
The snout is not quite labbish. It looks a little bit of a Look at that face.
So Knight Rider needs a home. DetroitDogRescue.com. Adopt. He's right there. He's waiting for someone.
I'm on my way, Michael.
He's lab mix. So if you want a bigger dog, this is perfect for you.
Oh, nice. Come on, Kit. Let's go.
There we go. Knight Rider.
Love it.
I don't know what it didn't make a sound. It did, but I can't.
Yeah, it's kind of. It will go back and forth. But in my brain, it's like a Cylon. Wong wong.
I know, Matt. I probably showed you this. I was in Kit.
No.
Yes.
Okay. Well, digress later.
Okay. I'll tell you the story. Well,
next episode.
We're going to open with that story next episode.
Okay.
Remind me.
Okay.
All right. All righty, folks. Knight Rider needs a home.
Thank you.
He's waiting. All righty, folks. Thanks for checking in. Those of you on Facebook Live, stick around. We're doing another episode. Those of you listening to audio or whatever platform you're on, skip ahead to the next episode, or it will be there on the next Tuesday or Thursday. In the meantime, change your thinking, change your life, laugh hard, run fast, be kind. We'll see you next time. In this episode of the Motor City Hypnotist podcast, we're discussing ketamine-assisted therapy. Now, as soon as I say that, there are going to be a lot of reactions out there.
Sounds heavy.
It is heavy, but it's not really. And I'm going to break down some misconceptions and myths that happen because somebody famous, we'll get into it.
Okay.
But we'll clarify it. But I'm going to tell you why ketamine-assisted therapy is becoming more and more of a positive treatment for people with depression, anxiety, PTSD, long-standing behavioral issues, addictions. And that, again, there are some doubters out there, but I'm going to go through it. And the big thing that I want to break the news here first is that our office is now providing ketamine assisted therapy.
That the big word there was assisted.
Yes.
Okay.
Assisted.
Assisted.
Yes, absolutely. And I'll get into that when we get into the episode as far as how that will work, as far as the logistics. But I'm excited because it's another tool that we have to help people feel better and function better.
Love it. I can't
In the
wait.
meantime, we're going to give away free stuff.
Yeah.
So if you want that, stick around.
Please.
We'll be right back.
This sounds like something for the authorities in Detroit.
Well, joke's on you. I'm living to 102 and then dying, like the city of Detroit.
Guys like this antique over here out of Detroit.
Spawned in the hellfires of Motown. Take him to Detroit.
No! No, not Detroit! No! No, please! Anything but that! No!
Stationed in Drambuie. It's worse than Detroit.
We did not have, as a unit, the confidence that we felt like we needed to beat Detroit.
Let's go to Detroit. Now you're talking, brother.
I don't think so. He plays for Detroit now.
Do they have many farms in Detroit?
Detroit. It's in Michigan.
I go to school. I know where Detroit is.
Get ready for the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright, originating from the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan. He has hypnotized thousands of people from all over the United States. David R. Wright has been featured on news outlets all across the country and is the clinical director of an outpatient mental health and hypnosis clinic located just south of Detroit, where he helps people daily using the power of hypnosis. Welcome, the Motor City Hypnotist, David R. Wright.
What is going on, my friends? It is David Wright, the Motor City Hypnotist. We're back with another episode of the Motor City Hypnotist podcast.
You better believe it.
You bet your ass. That's Matt Fox, the other voice you hear. He's hanging out with me, doing my podcast,
I'm
producing things. He's pushing buttons.
I'm only
messing
here
with the computer.
I'm only here to understand that you were in Knight Rider.
Yes, and we're going to get to that.
Okay.
So we're here in the palatial Podcast Your Voice Southfield Studios,
Yes, we
hanging
are.
out on a Monday evening doing a podcast.
Yes, we are.
So those of you out there listening, whatever platform you're on, know that we are on Facebook Live every time we record. So you can join us as we do these episodes and ask questions, be involved in the conversation, check in, say hello, whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
So come on and join us. Facebook Live, Motor City Hypnotist Facebook page. It's broadcast there every Monday evening, except for holidays and occasional misses or whatever.
You're
But
good. Yeah.
typically every Monday from 8 to 9.
Eastern
Standard Time.
Yep.
So follow us there. And as usual, we're giving away free stuff.
Yep.
Let me tell you where you can find me, folks. My website is motorcityhypnotist.com. As I said in the last episode, and probably a couple before that, now's the time to start planning your events for the spring. That means post-prom parties, grad night parties, even graduation parties in your home. I've done a few of those.
Nice.
So if you're looking for entertainment and a hypnotist for your all-night party or your post-prom party, now's the time to book it because my schedule is filling up. I just said last episode, I had one of the high schools I've done a few years in a row. I couldn't do this year because I was already booked. Their date was already taken.
So you would do this in homes as well? Like an 8-9-year-old, you will brush your teeth before going to bed.
You will stop whining. You will shut your trap.
No! Wow, that got dark.
Don't shut me up!
That got real dark there for a second.
Oh, great Odin's Raven.
It's crazy. Yeah, I don't know.
You will clean your bedroom.
That escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
You will not go snooping in your parents' bedroom.
So yeah, please don't. You don't know what you'll find.
Right.
Well, I have to tell the story off air, Matt, but
okay,
remind me about that.
I will.
Finding things in your parents.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't.
Good night, everybody. I gotta go. See ya.
Great. Oh.
Great heavens! What kind of radio show is this?
We'll save that to see if it's podcast worthy. Yeah.
It's not audience.
Clean out your desk. You're gone.
Yeah.
All right, go on.
So check out my website. You can get a quote in minutes. It's automated. You just put in your information. You'll get a quote. You can book it confirm it, and pay your deposit online and lock your date.
All right.
So check that out.
Cool.
My social media, Facebook and YouTube, are both Motor City Hypnotist, and on Snapchat and Instagram, Motor City Hypno. That's HYPNO.
Perfect.
And as we've done every single episode up to this one, which is 281, free hypnosis guide. Just text the word hypnosis to 313-800-8510. You'll have that hypnosis guide within a couple of minutes. And it will also give you a link. It's my Google link for the Motor City Hypnotist asking you to leave a review. So you can leave a review on the podcast. You can leave a review if you've seen me in person. You can leave a review if you've seen a show. They all apply. So just leave a review. Be fantastic. It's time.
Oh, here we go.
Yep.
That's how winning is done.
Now, I think that what you have there, and I know you prep a lot, but I think the good news story today should be you being a Knight Rider.
Okay, so let's cover that real quick. So I've done a lot of trainings in my career.
Okay.
You know, after school, I trained to be a hypnotist. We have to have CEU credits. So I've done a lot. I've done a lot of training through that, but I've done a lot of hypnosis trainings, especially stage hypnosis training when I started the entertainment side of things.
Got it.
Probably like 12, 15 years ago, something like that.
Okay.
So my buddy Richard was putting on a training. It was in Vegas, but it was at the house of Catherine Hickland. Now, I don't know if you know who she is.
It rings a bell, but I don't.
She was, I forgot her name. She was in Knight Rider.
Really?
She was David Hasselhoff's love interest, the blonde.
Okay, go on.
So, I've met Catherine a few times, but the training was at her home in Vegas. She's got this theater next to her home, with seating and everything. And that's where we did our training.
Okay.
So we're in the midst of our training, hanging out. And she says, "Oh, do you guys want to see Kit?" I'm like, "What?
What? Oh,
Kit's
so
in her garage.
The
original one.
I thought you meant you were in the show.
No, I was in the car.
Oh, yes, that I knew. I thought you were in the show.
No, I would have been 8 at the time, or 12, or 15, or whatever. But yeah, no, I was in the car.
Okay.
Yeah, I sat in the original Kit car, and they started it up, and the lights were on.
Did it talk to you too?
It didn't talk.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Turn it.
I know. So anyway, that's my brush with fame with Kit.
I love that.
Yeah. I'll show you. I think I maybe showed you a picture at some point, or did I?
I don't think you showed me.
I have a picture somewhere. I'll pull it up.
Oh my
We'll
God.
pull it up later. I'll show you.
The little kid nerd in me went, "Oh,
I know. I was sitting right in the seat. I held the wheel. I held that.
It wasn't a wheel steering wheel.
It was like an airplane steering wheel. Yeah. I forgot where I was at, Matt.
We were gonna do. That's how winning is done.
Oh, we're winner of the week already.
Winner of the week.
So yeah, I'm winner of the week.
Yes,
Kit.
you're winner of the week.
That's how winning is done.
All righty. Matt got choked up for my Kit story. He's so jealous.
A little bit.
Okay. A 12-year-old schoolgirl who is losing her sight was stunned when her favorite actress, Kate Winslet, helped her fulfill her visual bucket list.
Okay.
Not only did the Titanic star donate $5,000 so Lily Ray could see the Northern Lights, she also invited her and her mother to join her for a night at the theater in London. The girl, who lives in Nottingham, England, was diagnosed with Stargardt disease last December, an inherited condition that causes blurriness in the central part of the eye.
So she can't see faces.
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't really explain like how much that affects her. But
okay.
Her mom, Emma, set up a GoFundMe campaign to help her daughter enjoy as many visual experiences before her sight worsens or goes away for good.
Wow. Okay.
And the Oscar-winning actress was so touched by her brave battle that she reached out to do something personally. Lily Ray and Emma traveled to London to meet Kate before the trio went to the Barbican Theater to watch the play My Neighbor Totoro.
Okay.
No idea what the play.
No, me neither.
It just felt like we'd known each other forever, said Emma. Kate was very, very welcoming. It sounds like a funny thing to say, but she was just normal, very humble. Winslet also arranged for the girl to tick off another item on her list, feeding tigers at Knowsley Safari Park in Prescott, England. I'm sorry, Matt. I know.
No! No! Don't shut me up!
So what else would you like to do, young lady? I want to feed the tigers.
Well, since you can't see, you might lose an arm, but
Oh, great Odin's raven.
You couldn't see him coming, so go on. Wow, that's
So, back to it.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yes. We're so grateful for her donations and help in raising the profile of Lily's condition. Lily created a thank you card for Kate and her family, and she did it in Braille. The campaign managed to raise more than 10,000 pounds for the fun activities on her visual bucket list, so she could enjoy them before her sight deteriorates further. Earlier this year, Lily Ray fulfilled her dreams of going to South Africa on a safari. She also went to see Paris from the top of the Eiffel Tower and the Tower of Pisa and Pompeii in Italy.
Wow.
People have been so generous, and they've really understood what we are trying to do for Lily Ray. Emma noticed her daughter's poor eyesight when she was 5 and struggled to read at school. Stargardt disease affects 1 in 10,000 people, according to the Macular Society, and causes blurriness in the central part of the eye, but it is hoped she may at least keep some of her peripheral vision. Currently, she can only see from 6 feet away and uses a front side of 64 to read her laptop. Now, I'm not an optometrist or an ophthalmologist.
Font size, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Despite her condition, brave Lily Ray refuses to be downhearted. If there's anything you feel is wrong with you, it's not a disability, and no one should see it as a disability. They should see it as an ability.
Wow.
That's it.
Good for wow.
Yeah.
Kate Winslet.
So to
coming in
Lily
strong.
Ray, the girl who's losing her sight, and to Kate Winslet for being just a solid stand-up person. That's fantastic.
Wow. Good for
great
good
story.
Yes, thank you.
And definitely winner of the week.
That's how winning is done.
Goodness gracious.
Yes, it is.
So, back to it.
Yes. So we're going to talk about something that the practice has got going on.
Yes. So we're talking about ketamine assisted therapy. So that raises a lot of questions right off the bat. So first of all, I just want to make the announcement, and I think I prefaced it or teased it last session, that our clinic is now providing ketamine assisted therapy. Now, I'm just going to walk you through how the logistics of that. But before I do that, I just want to explain what ketamine is and why it's being utilized now as a therapy intervention. So we all know that a lot of people with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, they need psychotropic medications, many of them, to be able to function.
The mix, though, they have to have the right
well, and
dosage.
and that's really the difficult thing about psychotropic medication. For somebody who has severe depression and is suicidal, yes, they're antidepressants, and typically they come in two. And I don't want to get too deep into the weeds here, but MAO inhibitors and SSRIs.
Okay.
So they're different types. They affect the brain in a different way. And for simplicity's sake, I'm going to dumb this down really far. Imagine your brain has a bunch of spark plugs in it. Those are your synapses. Those are what fire when you're thinking or when you're telling your body to do something. It's a synapsis is I kind of compare it to spark plug, because in a synapsis, an electrical current jumps from one to the other. Those are the signals, and that electrical current is carried by neurotransmitters in the brain. So if those neurotransmitter levels are off
or broken
or not working,
right,
you're going to feel anxious or depressed or have schizophrenia or bipolar disorder,
depending on
what is happening in your brain. So what we found over the years with psychotropic medications like antidepressants or benzodiazepines, which are typically anti-anxiety medications like Xanax, like Klonopin, clonazepam, they do help, but it helps the symptoms. It doesn't cure the cause, if that makes sense.
It does.
Now, I'm always, and I tell my clients this, and I'm firm on this, medication is not a solution. It's never a solution. It's always a tool. So think about that when you're thinking about medication, because I've had clients that have been on benzos or on antidepressants for 20, 30 years. And it's just a part of their life. Now, if they need it, that's great. But I feel like my goal for my clients is, let's get you to the point where you don't need the medication. let's work on yourself and your coping mechanisms and your patterns so that someday you may not need this medication.
So is it more of the medication that they have been taking for the 20, 30 years? Are they keeping the spark plugs from not sparking?
Typically what they do, well, so with depression, let's handle depression just on its own for a minute.
Okay.
So typically there's a lack of neurotransmitters or your synapses are not firing to their, almost think of it as a car running at low RPMs. It'll never get up to speed.
Okay.
Once you add the medication, it increases that neurotransmitter activity, which makes you feel better.
And you're increasing your
which
RPMs,
raises your mood.
Your RPMs there.
Yeah,
Okay.
your RPMs go up. So there is a place for psychotropic medication. And believe me, I'm not anti-medication. I just hate people going to that as their first solution or as their only solution. So over the years, of course, we're always looking for alternative ways, something that's not a chemically enhanced experience in life, if that makes sense.
It does.
So ketamine, I'll give you a brief thing. Ketamine was developed back in the 50s and was used a lot in the Vietnam War for field medication for soldiers who were injured.
Okay.
They would give it to them on the field to help them with their injury or to disassociate them with. So ketamine is a hallucinogenic.
You lost your arm here.
Yeah, but then your mind is not.
Right.
It just kind of disconnects your mind from the body.
Yeah. Okay.
So it is a hallucinogenic compared to other hallucinogenics like LSD or like psilocybin or magic mushrooms. This is a much less, it's a much calmer hallucinogen, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay. So what the theory is behind ketamine treatments is that you see a therapist, they do an evaluation, we talk about what your goals are. So here's the thing with ketamine assisted therapy. Matt brought it up right in the beginning. He said assisted.
Yes.
That is the key word because you can get ketamine. I mean, you can get it on the street and just get high, but that's not really, it's not goal oriented. There's no focus to it. It's not with intent, if that makes sense. So what we do with ketamine is we have an intake session where we talk about what are you struggling with? What are the things you want to change? And then what happens is after that initial session, if they're a good candidate for this, then we bring them in for a second session, which is called a dosing session.
Who makes the assessment, the intake for?
So there are two assessments that are done. One is the therapist themselves.
Okay.
They will see a client. Let's say I do an intake with Joe. Joe says, I've been severely depressed for many, many years. I've tried medications. They don't work. I've been suicidal. I've had attempts in the past. So it's almost like we've been working on this for a long time, but nothing seems to help.
Okay.
That's a good candidate.
Okay.
So then I can say to him, well, there is a possibility of something working for you, which is ketamine. And again, I want to simplify this as much as possible. I can get into the scientific and the medical part of it.
Just the word ketamine's got a stigma.
Well, it does. And I'm going to cover that in a moment. So what ketamine does, it kind of, like I said, it disassociates you from your body. It gives you different insights. It lets your brain free up just to wander and go wherever it says. So in theory, what this does, and in practice also, is that your brain has a neuroplasticity. It's where your brain makes new connections in your synapses.
It's like someone that's had a stroke and they have to reignite those synapses.
Yes,
together.
exactly.
Okay.
Right. So what ketamine does is allows you to see things differently. It gives you a different insight. And then once that dosing session is done, we do a follow-up session, which we call integration. That's where we talk about the experience and say, hey, I noticed during your dosing session, you were smiling or you were laughing or you seem happier. That may not happen, but I'm just bringing up a random, observation.
Okay.
So we can talk about that. And they said, well, yeah, I kind of thought about it and it didn't seem that bad at the time. And I'm kind of seeing it differently now. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the simplistic way that we would use ketamine. Now, like Matt said, there's some stigma attached to this. The most recent example, of course, is Matthew Perry. And I have to bring that up because once he passed away, the news came out that he was on ketamine. So then everybody started freaking out and they're like, oh, don't mess with that. Don't mess with ketamine. Now, to be fair, that could have happened with any antidepressant, any pain medication, any benzodiazepine. It could have happened with Tylenol. It could have happened with ibuprofen. Doesn't matter. If you take too much of anything, it's gonna hurt you.
Right.
And in his situation, ketamine wasn't being used for clinical purposes. It was just used to cope.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It was, I'm going to use this in quotation. It was assisted in quotations, allegedly.
Well, and the other thing too is I believe, according to what I've read, and again, it's hard to figure out what's true and what's not, that he's pretty much a daily user.
Yeah.
That it was a constant thing. So
right.
So any medication used to an extreme is going to be dangerous. So just keep that in mind. Ketamine has been proven safe and effective over the past 60 years. It's in fact, it's still on the market, and we're able, and clinicians are able to prescribe it. If there were a big issue, that wouldn't happen. It would have been pulled immediately.
Yeah. In your practice, it is being used responsibly.
Absolutely.
You're there. You're seeing your patient, your client through the experience of using ketamine the proper way.
Absolutely. So let me tell you what a session would look like. You would come in for an intake. We would evaluate you. I'll use Joe again as an example. Joe comes in. He's been depressed for 20 years. Or Joe might be an existing client of mine that's been suffering with depression. And we've tried and it just no movement. It seems stuck. That would be a good candidate. And I would say to Joe, hey, Joe, I have a new possibility here. Would you like to try ketamine assisted therapy? That would give you insight. It would increase neuroplasticity in your brain, allow you to see and think things differently. And that could help with your depression. And he says, sure, I would.
What resources do you talking to a client about a new, it's trying something
new treatment, right?
New treatment. You want to give them, and I'm sure, and I know you do, you give them the resources for them to do their own due diligence.
Absolutely.
To say, I want to make sure that that you feel that this is right for you.
Absolutely.
You don't want to make the decision for them.
No,
you
not
want
at
them
all.
to make that
I'm
choice.
simply offering that, and I'm giving them the information, and they're deciding.
Good.
So say Joe says, yeah, I want to do this. I'm like, all right. So then I give him a reference to Journey Clinical. This is a different company. Journey Clinical handles the medical side of things as far as an evaluation, the prescription, and sending it out to you.
So they go through another intake session.
Second intake with a psychiatrist.
Okay.
Yep. So once that second psychiatrist is done and he approves it, he will prescribe the ketamine as a medication.
Right.
It will get sent to the client. It's in the way. And so here's the thing. And again, I want to make sure that this is very clear. We are not a medical clinic. We don't do IVs. We don't do shots. We don't do anything like that. So the ketamine that you would get would be a sublingual tablet that dissolves under your tongue.
Okay.
Kind of like nitroglycerin for heart patients.
And they get it in the mail.
And they get it. Yes. They get it sent to them. They get it in the mail.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, most medication is sent by mail now. Most prescriptions, I mean, in general.
Yeah.
So you would come into my office
DoorDash.
with your prescription in hand, and then we would have the brief introductory period where you use the bathroom, you get comfortable, take your shoes off, lie down, put a mask on, I'll have music going,
throw in a movie.
Yep. And you put that dose of ketamine under your tongue, and then you just let it dissolve for the next 15 minutes. Then you spit it out. And then for the next 45 or 60 minutes, you have your trip, whatever you want to call it.
But there's someone in the room with them.
Yes, I'm next to you the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing with assisted, because people don't know what to expect. It could cause some anxiety. It could cause some fear. It might cause them to panic a little bit.
Yeah, because they're seeing and thinking things that they've
never thought before.
Right.
And that could be scary. So the big thing is, the therapist sits with you, and they just, if you get anxious, they'll talk you down. We'll do some deep breathing. We'll do some grounding exercises, do some meditation. So all of this kind of fits in. So once that dosing session is done, you come back within a week or maybe a week later, And then we do what we call an integration session, where we talk about your experience, talk about new insights you've gained, talk about how you think of things differently now.
Is this how Stephen Wright came up with all of his material?
It could have been. Maybe so.
Oh, great Odin's raven.
I just, because that man's got some wild thoughts. He does, you know. Same with Jack Handy. But
Yes,
go on.
deep thoughts.
Yeah.
My favorite deep thoughts. Sidebar. I drove my nephew. I told my nephew I was going to Disney World. So we drove for a few miles and I pulled up to a burned down abandoned building and said, "Oh no, somebody burned Disneyland down." He cried and cried, but I thought it was a pretty good joke.
Wow, that's traumatic.
What in blazes are you talking about?
I don't know. It's out there. It's out there.
Man.
So anyway, so with the ketamine, the whole idea here is that we just change the way your brain works, and through typically a whole session or a whole series of ketamine treatments would be like 6 to 8 treatments.
Okay, I was going to say
spaced, you know,
a month, 2
a
months
week
apart.
Yeah. I mean, you want to have a session every week. So it'd be a dosing session, integration, dosing, integration.
Wow. Okay.
So you always have an integration session between dosing, because you want, as opposed to this place I took my son, where they just hooked him up and left him for a half hour or hour and a half and let him go home. They never talked about it. There was no integration. There was no discussing. There was no way to kind of connect what you experienced to what you want to change.
Right.
So that's the important thing. So again, 6 to 8 dosing sessions, but in between each of those sessions is what we call an integration session, where we talk about your experiences and work on it and try to change that thinking.
That integration session sounds like it's connecting pathways.
Yes.
And it's
absolutely.
creating different
yes,
pathways.
And we're developing new pathways and new ways of thinking.
Yes.
And that's why this, and I'm not going to say, here's the thing. It's not a silver bullet. It's not a miracle cure. And I know some people have touted that who have gone through this. People have been severely depressed, and after going through ketamine treatment, they said, it's a miracle. I'm totally different. Now,
everyone's different. Everyone's brain chemistry is different.
And that could be an exception. But the whole point is that there is some data that shows the effectiveness of ketamine and being able to change thinking patterns and the way you perceive yourself. And that's the biggest benefit of this. So people think, okay, so what's it going to cost? So here's the thing.
Insurance.
So with therapy, when you come in for an intake session to evaluate, your insurance will pay for that. It's an intake session. It's a therapy session. I'm a licensed therapist. It's just like a normal session would be. The dosing session, however, is not covered because that's a medical thing. And even though we're present, we're not the prescriber. We're not giving them the medication. We're not doing anything medically related.
That's where the psychiatrist comes in.
That's where the psychiatrist comes in.
And that's
so the dosing session would be a cash pay. So think of it like this. You're going to do a session, an intake session that's paid by the insurance. Every dosing session you have is going to be cash pay because we're not doing therapy, and that's beyond my scope of practice.
Okay.
That's handled by the doctors who prescribe the medication.
The dosing session.
The dosing session, even though I'm there to guide them and to make sure they're okay.
But the step between,
we haven't prescribed the medication.
Right.
So we're not.
You're recommending it.
Yes.
But then they go to the psychiatrist for
the
their
prescription.
second evaluation, right? Their second intake?
No,
if you will?
they only have one intake.
Okay.
They have one intake with the psychiatrist. So let me clarify. They have one intake. They intake with me. I say, yeah, you're a good candidate. Let me refer you to the psychiatrist at Journey Clinical.
Okay.
They see that psychiatrist. They get prescribed 2 doses, 2 sessions.
Okay.
That comes in the mail. They make an appointment with me for the dosing session. They take it in session while I'm with them.
They pay your practice.
They pay my practice for the session.
Okay.
Even though they've already paid the psychiatrist for that session. Now, I can't speak to their model as far as their charges or how they bill it.
Okay. Or if the patient's insurance would cover it.
Correct. So in typically what I've heard, and I've been in some peer groups regarding this. A lot of times what some clinics will do is what we call a super bill. It's just a printed billing with what the procedure code is, when it was, date, time, whatever. And they can submit that for reimbursement. Now, I can tell you just from the information I've gathered, insurance will not reimburse for dosing sessions because we're not doing the therapy in the dosing session. Right. We're just there as a guide.
But are they covering the actual medication? That's kind of more.
No, that's what you have to pay for.
The insurance company is not covering.
They're not covering ketamine right now.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get to.
That's one of the things they're pushing for. There's a lot of lobbyists and a lot of other advocacy groups that are kind of pushing for this to get covered.
Sure.
As of right now, it is not.
Yeah, the folks in the lobbyists in DC need to get to work. Is that what you're saying?
They need to work on this. So really that. And let me just, again, break it down simply. You come in to see me for an intake. You're a good candidate. I refer you to Journey Clinical. You talk to their psychiatrist. He prescribes you the medication. You schedule back with me for your dosing session, your first dosing session.
Got it.
They come in. We get them comfortable. They take the medication.
You see them through that?
I see them through that. Typically, you want to have like a 3-hour window. And when you come in for that, you have to have a chaperone with you, somebody to drive you.
Sure.
And to take you home because you shouldn't drive. Right. So, the whole time period on that dosing session is, I'm going to say 3 hours. Sometimes it's not quite that long. It could be 2 or 2.5, but we want to make sure, some people emerge quicker. Some people stay in for longer. So we splot that time out.
Just plan on not working that day.
Yes, absolutely. And definitely it's not something you're going to be going out and doing a bunch of stuff. You want to make sure the rest of your day is free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got grocery shopping to do. I got to make dinner.
Yeah, no, that's not. But here's the thing. This is another possibility for people who've been struggling for a long time with mental illness, whether it be depression or anxiety or PTSD or substance abuse, that can help you just rewire the way your mind thinks. And in so doing, again, the theory is that once those new neural pathways are made, that these other things become less of an issue. You just feel better. You think better. You think better of yourself. And that's why this treatment is so promising over the last few years. There's not a lot of documentation on it before like the last 10 years.
Okay. So it's still somewhat new. It's not new, but
yeah, but it's fairly new.
Fairly new.
I mean, think about it. We're just now getting to the point where I don't want to say normal, but your normal mental health clinic could be offering this service.
Sure.
And before that wouldn't have happened unless you had a doctor or a nurse on staff. Now we do have a doctor on staff. Now he doesn't want to be there 5 days a week to oversee all of the medical portion. But again, that's why we teamed with this company, Journey Clinical. They've been doing this. They're doing it all over the country. And in fact, Michigan just got approved. They just added Michigan to their list a couple months ago.
Wow.
So I'm one of the first ones in Michigan in.
Wow, that's good for you. That's
so if you have questions about this, here's the thing. This was very brief. It was like a 20-minute overview.
Yeah.
Maybe 25 minutes.
I still have lots of questions. So.
And there are going to be questions. So here's what I would suggest. Reach out to me on my Facebook page. You can reach me through my website. You can just email me. I'll answer any questions you have. But I really do. In what will happen in my clinic, because right now we have 10 therapists and our doctor, Dr. Singh, who's our psychiatrist. What will happen is we're going to get everybody in the clinic through this training process so that they're able to do the ketamine assisted therapy.
Nice.
So if you feel like you've tried and things just don't change, or if you've been on the same medication for years and you don't feel like it's helping, this could be a possibility for you. And again, a lot of people have reported great success and really life-changing experiences after doing this.
Nice. I'm glad you're adding that.
Yeah. So again, if you have questions, I know there's a lot of them. And here's the thing. If you call me and say, I'm interested in ketamine, I'm going to bring you in for an intake. We'll have an hour to talk all about it. I'm going to have materials to give you. We have a whole packet that you're going to take home and read over and decide whether this is right for you.
Okay.
And that is the big thing, that this is not something that we take lightly, because it is a medication and it's something we have to be careful with.
Right.
But the potential here is huge, and it could be something that could help a lot of people. So again, if you're interested or if you have questions, in fact, if you email me or even reach out to the office and just say, hey, I want more information on ketamine treatment, I'll send you stuff. You can just read it at home and decide if this is a fit for you.
You're adding, it's on your website.
In fact, I have it right here. This is kind of the basic introductory worksheet. What is the cost? What is Journey Clinical? What is ketamine? How does ketamine feel? I mean, a lot of questions will be answered in the handouts we give you.
All right.
And then you can decide, yeah, this is something I want to do.
Excellent.
All right.
Wow.
Again, it's hard to end this because I know there's so many questions because it's like we're just scratching the surface, but we'll come back and revisit this because without a doubt, we're probably going to have some clients coming up in the next few months. So
as this continues to evolve in your practice, I know you're going to want to talk about it. And
absolutely.
Please, this is your show. You can do whatever the hell you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I would love to revisit this. As, as time progresses, how is it coming along? What's it looking like? What are some of the things that you're seeing that are helping?
Real quickly, and I just realized that it's right on my sheet and I didn't mention it. So when you see the psychiatrist at Journey Clinical to get your prescription, the consultation is $250. And the medication is $88 for 2 sessions. So $250 plus 88 is
$338.
Yeah. So that would be your cost for your just getting in the door.
Nice.
And then probably for that, for those dosing sessions, it'll probably be similar costs. Now I know here's the problem. That's a big amount. If you're paying at least $250,
I had to do the
every
math
other
again.
week.
I had to do the math again in my head.
Right.
I'm glad I got it right.
That seems like a lot, and it is. But here's the thing: it's
that's every 2 weeks.
If I were to say to you, this is going to cost you a few $1,000s, just throw it out there. But in 6 to 8 weeks, you're going to be transformed. Would that be worth it to you?
That's up to the person to answer.
Absolutely. And there's no wrong answer. They might say no. And I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Do I have the funds out of pocket?
They might say yes.
Or will I want to go into debt?
Well, that's the other thing too. You have to evaluate what's best for you.
Right.
And I know that is a financial thing and I understand it. But at the same time, if somebody told me, I'm just thinking in general, just crazy hypotheticals. But if somebody said, I can give you $3,000, you're going to be happy the rest of your life. I'd be like, sure,
yeah,
let's do it. Now I can't guarantee that I'm not overstating the effectiveness of this, but if you're willing to work and you're willing to put in the time and go through the program, I am confident that you're going to see some changes.
Yeah.
All righty. That is
ketamine
assisted psychotherapy.
That very, very broad overview.
Very broad overview. And if you guys just shoot me a message or even post it on the Facebook page, if you want to learn, if you want to get more detailed about this, we can do that. Just let us know. If it's something you want, definitely we can address it.
All right.
Fantastic. Before we go, Hershey needs a home.
Have we looked at Hershey?
There was a
before?
Hershey, but it's a different one.
Okay.
It's a cockapoo. It's born in 2022.
Okay.
So a couple years old.
Yep.
Neutered male. He's 20 pounds. Dog friendly, yes. Kid friendly, over 5.
Okay.
Activity levels, low, medium.
Huh. Cat friendly?
Cat friendly, unknown.
Okay. Most of them are unknown. Oh,
there's Hershey.
Are you okay?
Look at that face.
Are you sure Hershey hasn't been on the show before?
I don't believe so.
Because I recognize
unless she showed back up, or else he showed back up.
Because I recognize the bandana for some reason.
Do you?
Unless they reuse the bandana.
I mean, so here's what happens, and I've noticed this. Well, it probably happens with every rescue, but I focus on Detroit Dog Rescue because that's in our area. I have seen dogs that are on there, and then I won't see them for a couple months, and then they're back. So that's disappointing. But Hershey could be a return. I don't know.
Oh, man,
but I mean, if you look
cute.
at that face, how could you not? How could you not want that little boy?
Oh.
Yeah. Hershey.
Mary Puffins.
Hershey needs a home. DetroitDogRescue.com/adopt. Check it out.
Appreciate that.
He's waiting.
He's
I keep
waiting.
saying she,
yeah.
But it's a he. Yeah, for sure. All righty, folks. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back next Monday from 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time if you want to join us on Facebook Live. In the meantime, change your thinking, change your life, laugh hard, run fast, be kind. We'll see you next time.